r/AskReddit. What do people think makes them look cool, but actually makes them look like a stuff? Pretending to know. Or be something when actually having no idea. I quit a job because the new manager was like this. Didn't have a clue what half the forms we give patients to fill out were and refused to learn. Just said wrong things like they were fact, which is especially unacceptable when your idiocy ends up with people getting bills in the multiple hundreds. When I was younger, the only thing anyone ever noticed me for was my knowledge, so naturally, I assumed that more knowledge equals better person. Of course, I wanted to be a good person, so when I didn't have any more knowledge left, I started making up stuff to keep up my non-existent reputation, and stuff. Did I make up lots of stuff? I'm trying not to do that anymore, though. I have a coworker who has the gift of gab and is very proud of his ability to give people false assurances while being extremely vague, essentially just bombarding them with words until they are satisfied. It's a useful trick, I suppose, but when you hear him do it in real time, you realize he's just a very good liar. I have a friend who does this in a very patronizing way. I've learned to just nod and go or for sure because I don't care to argue semantics centered around being right about some petty tiny thing lol. He acts offended when I actually say things like, "That's a nice opinion." I'm searching through this thread looking for an example because I'm having a hard time imagining this. Like, do you mean he just talks a lot without saying anything in particular? Like a meandering pontification? Being and stuff to other people to boost your own ego. Especially kids. Adults being stuff to kids even when the kid is being a child. You don't look cool. You look immature. And there are so very many ways to be in stuff. Constantly telling people about the women they slept with or were otherwise involved with. I knew a guy like this in college. He was one of the most obnoxious dudes I've known. Guy in high school tried to convince me he had slept with my 21-year-old Christian, married sister. Had to sit next to him in math class and all he talked about was how many girls he'd been with now. That's when you respond only with those poor women. And then tune him out. It's just a prank, bro, it's just a prank. Say'd be every stuffer about to get their stuff kicked because they pushed too far. Reminds me of that one kid who got stuff and stuff because he did a robbing people with a stuff prank. There was this dude who would chase people with a chainsaw as a prank. One day, he got lit the stuff up and his friend ran over and yelled at the guy who stuffed him saying it was just a prank, bro. You stuffing stuffed him. He blamed the guy who was trying to save his own life. I've had dates who were dismissive, slightly rude to servers, and it was a huge turn-off. A friend of mine once brought another friend that I had never before met to our weekly trivia night. The girl was a huge stuff to the server that we see almost every single week, to the point that she wrote her a snotty note on the receipt when she paid. There wasn't anything particularly wrong with the service, she was just being rude as a standard action. That was an instant "you are never invited back here" moment. Endlessly talking and bragging about their private lives. Example: I had a real stuff of a boss who once said, "Man, it wasn't yesterday I got laid with that woman," after a customer left, which made me and my colleagues somewhat uncomfortable. He also talked about how his wife better show those stuff for everything he does. I'm not interested and I think it is super trashy to talk like that. Edit: he isn't my boss anymore. Is your boss a 6th grader? Honestly, how do these people wind up in charge? The ones who don't know how to get attention, so they start gossiping about everyone. And I'm like, I know your life is not interesting, but please have some respect for others and for yourself. And the ones who speak as stuffing loud as they can just to ensure the attention never leaves. Edit: I really feel like I should explain myself better. While writing this down, I had some very specific people in mind who were known to be loud even other than the tonality of their voices. Basically people who cross boundaries and try to establish themselves as the prime member of a group they're engaging with. More of a personality thing than about physical aspects. I have had friends who are pretty loud-voiced too. Even I tend to raise my voice in excitement sometimes and have to be told to tone down. I'm sorry if this came off the wrong way, I didn't intend to XD. Picking on someone in a group and trying to get everyone else to laugh at them. Not in a "hey, everyone's joking around" kind of way, in a being a nasty piece of work and embarrassing the person kind of way. People like this suck. Oh yay. I know people like this. They think doing so will help them make friends. By grouping against a particular person. Pathetic. I had this happen to one of my friends once. He's disabled, so stuff always tried to pick on him in middle school. He was in a group of popular people in class, and one of the popular guys said, "Hey, by a show of hands, "Who's the guy you hate the most in this group?" hoping that everyone would vote against my friend. Then they all proceeded to vote against the same guy who called the vote. It was the funniest stuff. Being mean to serving staff. True. It doesn't make you look assertive, it makes you look like and stuff. This is very specific, but I once knew a bloke who thought he was cool for not liking Game of Thrones, which is fine, but would then post spoilers of it on social media along the lines of "I don't watch or care about Game of Thrones, but X stuff in the most recent episode, unlucky if you saw this." I fell victim of it once and I literally thought my blood was boiling. I was so angry. The lesson here is probably to stay off social media before you've seen the most recent episode of a show you love. But still, stuff that guy. My brother saw Endgame on opening night, then proceeded to spoil it for the entire family for the lulz, as he put it. Sharing their trash taste in music out loud on public transportation. Even if it was good. Everybody in the bus is getting out of work or school, they are tired and don't want to listen to your music, plus the sound of people speaking, plus the sound of road xx gets just too much when you're tired. Vandalizing rocks, trees, etc. in parks and nature preserves. It takes you out of the experience when you're scanning a gorgeous landscape and your eyes land on Butthead plus Ding Dong Forever in bright colors. Who says romance is stuff? Picking on weird kids. I feel really guilty about this one. I was bullied and picked on from early age. I felt completely disconnected from my peers around me, but when the new kid came around and they gave me an opportunity to feel accepted, I took it. The kid was a complete stuff, which was why I excused picking on him at the time, but looking back it was just really cruel, and the reason he was a stuff was probably a defense mechanism. Doing something nice for someone and videotaping it for clout. Somewhat related, but I can't stand the patronizing wholesome posts about people who have disabilities. There are so many Facebook pages that share inspirational stories of people, and the stories exploit the person for their disability. It's not supportive to share those articles. It's a weird, feel-good moral high ground that preys on people who are just trying to live their lives. This would count as the other side of that. I hate when something bad is happening, people take their phones out to film it and don't call for help. A few years ago, I was on the subway and a man collapsed. Me and a few other people told the person closest to the help button to push it and tell them there was a medical emergency. There were a few people who were trying to give him first aid but weren't sure if they could move him since they didn't know if he was seizing or had a neck-head injury. So many people took out their phones and filmed this man who was face down on the floor. Then when the train stopped, the train driver and the paramedics couldn't get through because a bunch of idiots were still filming. I don't understand this. If you see a person who might have a life-threatening injury, why would you film that? What kind of people do that, and why do we live in a society that is okay with that? Gatekeeping a music artist like they discovered them and are the whole reason for their success. Don't get me wrong, support the artist, but don't be that stuff that determines who is worthy of a common trend. Edit. Thank you all for the upvotes and awards, stuff gatekeepers. The Strokes were getting that a month or two back. One of the songs from the album they released last year blew up on TikTok, and people were attempting to gatekeep the band as if they hadn't been together for 23 years, won 4 Brits and 1 Grammy before the song got big on TikTok. It's part of a larger trend where someone's identity comes from their consumption, rather than what they create, such as the music they listen to or the surgery they elect to have. Edit. Now that this post has a ton of upvotes, am I supposed to give a stupid wow thank you speech or something? Also, the irony of getting Reddit awards for a post criticizing meaningless identity consumption. Failing school does not inherently make you a stuff, but bragging about it as if it's something that is cool isn't the best presentation of character either. I've never read a book in my life. And they're proud. Teachers who are proud of many of their students not passing. If I ever get a teacher like that, maybe I should ask why they are proud for being a bad teacher. I had a professor like what you described and I switched majors cause she taught quite a few classes in my major. First day of class she tells everyone that you'll be lucky to get a C on your own. First couple tests I studied my stuff off and got like a 12% grade after the first month. I looked at the classes I had to take and she taught 3 or 4 more of them, so I changed my major cause I knew I wouldn't be able to get past her. I had an instructor like that in the Navy. Ultimately she was stopped and punished, but not before she torpedoed a lot of careers, including mine. She was an awful person.